Step number 9, horizontal space. Measure using taper-toed jig. The jig is laid out so that from the front edge of the toe to the front of the shaft collar is 5/8 of an inch. From the front of the toe to the back side of the shaft collar is 3/4 of an inch. We're going to measure from the contact point of the hammer blocked off on the string, to the front edge of the damper guide rail. We need to know how much space here is available. Sliding the L jig under the string up to the contact point of the hammer and string, viewing down from above, what is the relationship of the shaft of the jig to the front edge of the damper guide rail? On this action model you can see we have much more than either 5/8 of an inch or 3/4 of an inch. But let's say if that be the case, then you would mark 3/4 of an inch for that particular damper, whether it be 1 or be the highest damper. But let's say, what if the contact point of the hammer was farther back? Say about here. Now what is the relationship of the front and back edge of the shaft collar with the front edge of the damper guide rail? And it looks to me like about right there that the front edge is pretty well in line with the front edge of the damper guide rail, meaning that that would be 5/8 of an inch, and that's what you would mark for that particular damper. Circle 5/8 of an inch. If it was 3/4, a little bit farther forward, that would be 3/4. If we don't have at least a minimum of 5/8 of an inch from the front edge of the damper guide rail to the contact point, we'd go to step B. And that is, we would measure the distance from the contact point to the front edge of the damper guide rail bushing hole. Do we have 5/8 or up to 3/4 of an inch space there? That would look something like this. Let's say the front edge of the damper guide rail ended up being, or the front edge of the front of the shaft ended up being right even with the front of the damper guide wire bushing hole. In other words, the contact point of the hammer and string was here. You would have, that would be a 5/8 of an inch clearance. You would mark 5/8 of an inch. Or if it was 3/4, it would be probably about right here. The back side of the shaft collar would line up with the front of the bushing hole. If we don't have a minimum of at least 5/8 of an inch from the contact point to the front edge of the damper guide wire hole, the muffler rail will not fit. Okay, let's see what this looks like in the piano. I have removed damper number 1 only for the purpose of videotaping. You do not have to remove any dampers to do this measurement. Taking the jig, sliding it underneath the string, sliding it forward, I am blocking up the hammer, sliding it forward and seeing now, looking straight down, the relationship of the shaft collar and the front edge of the damper guide rail. And we have a little more than 3/4 of an inch clearance. And here's what it looks like in the treble. I have the hammer blocked up against the string, the jig underneath the string slid up against the hammer, and we clearly have actually about an inch here in the treble from the contact point of the hammer and string to the front edge of the damper guide rail, so we have plenty of space.